There you go.
I thought it was like some spam, but then sure. And then he replied back like with an ILM email this time because the previous email was like something else. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, this is like my dreams facing me right in the face. This is like, do or die. Like, this is the opportunity.
It's a stylist league. Mike and B pitching the pen, making pictures ascend to the highest ring. The league. Raul running the scheme. Tune into the program and why receive. Yeah, we dropping these seeds. Art over everything. Drive the dream.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another one of the Stylist League interviews. Tonight, we have the great pleasure of having Mr. Gio Nakpil with us. You may know him from the Gio brush that Pablo Munez came out with, and he's so much more than just brush. Wait till you meet this guy. I can't wait for you to meet him. Anyway, let's get it started. Bradley, where you at?
Hey.
Hi. Who's there? Who's that with us? Who we have with us?
I brought. I feel so close to Gio. I'm gonna call him Giovanni.
or Brush.
Nice. Or Brush. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Brush. We have Mr. Brush with us.
Or Brush. That's awesome.
What's up, Gio?
What's up? You both. Happy to be here.
Good. So I was doing my research on you, like right now. Like I didn't have all week to do it, but I had to do my research on you. And
it is late there, by the way, so thank you.
It's late. Like only 9:00. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So I was wondering, Mike. I know that you you have a 2D background going into 3D. I have 3D background. And Gio, like, I'm just curious, like, for you, like, when did you get your start in the art industry, and how long? Because I'm gonna let you date yourself. How long have you actually been in the creative space as a career?
It's so long I've lost count. Like, definitely 90s, I would say. Late 90s, 97, 98 maybe. But yeah, like it was so long ago that the means of modeling we had was I called it vertex, point by point, right? So you would like graph the polygon point by point, and then you pull it out silhouette by silhouette to get your face. That's how long ago I started. So
wow.
So your box, like, you would take a box or before a box, so you take a box and like make a face.
Not even a box, like sometimes like surface tools, kind of like, yeah, you remember those days, right, Mike? I don't know, like.
So listen, I interesting story. I haven't been in the 3D game all that long, but it's funny because just today, Bradley and I were talking about how we couldn't even imagine modeling faces that way. Like, it seemed crazy, before ZBrush. Like, so hats off to you.
There was no stylist back then, so there couldn't have been a stylist league.
No. We were the nothing league back then.
Yeah, it was like,
Bradley was literally just, 90s. He was just a glimmer in his mom and dad's eye.
Yeah, I was. I'm gonna be 40 this year. All right. I've lived a little. I'm gonna be 40. All right, 40. All right. There's wrinkles here. Little wrinkles here. So, but Gio, you come from, like, you started in 3D. Like, is that where you started your career in 3D?
It was a little bit of a roundabout kind of path for me. My aim was definitely like to be a 3D artist, but I think my main inspiration has always been, having grown up in the 80s, growing up with like Rick Baker, Stan Winston, like a lot of the more practical effects Rubber Monster movies. That's what I really wanted to do. That's what kind of galvanized my love for doing creatures and all that stuff. But by the time I was like a student and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, Jurassic Park came about, and of course that kind of like defined this sort of love for creatures and into a new way, right? Like, oh, maybe this is really what I wanted to do, because this is sort of like the new industry that was kind of blossoming from special effects. It suddenly became visual effects with the more CG stuff. So that kind of led me to pursue that in that way, because it was just still blossoming as an industry when I was starting out. You know, it was kind of like, you know, the whole Jurassic Park, soft image, silicon graphics kind of. I don't know if y'all even remember that stuff, but
What's silicon graphics? I don't.
Silicon graphics was like these like machines that cost $50,000-$60,000 back in the day, but the course that I took for the class I went to, you know, it was too cheap to actually be able to afford those. So we had like little kind of PCs like running 3D Studio version 4 when, you know, the high-end classes were like running Softimage, which was the software that was used for Jurassic Park, running on these like highly expensive machines that were like $100,000, God knows how much. Like, in Softimage and Alias themselves were like $50,000-$60,000. So, you know, it was like kind of, you know, I would like kind of fog up the windows, like looking at the students using these machines, going back to the lab with the 486s or whatever it was.
So did
Bradley,
you go to college so did you go to college for your education to going into 3D?
Yeah, I went to a two-year college.
Okay.
God, it's so long ago. Like I don't even recall anymore. But yeah, I went to the cheapest college I could find, because I wanted to work in the industry as fast as I could, because I knew deep down that, and it validated it. The school validated it. Like, they were teaching me nothing, essentially. That they were giving us like homeworks that were like, do these like triangles and squares on this table and render it, when that's not going to get me to Jurassic Park, you know? Like,
right.
I realized that, like, if I had to kind of like learn all that stuff, it would have been on my own. So school was just a formality. In truth, I probably didn't even need to spend that money there. But, you know, I mean, there's value in it, obviously.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was just kind of like, I had my own kind of vision. I had in my head on how to go about it, and it's just like doing personal work and really caging myself in my room back with my parents and just like learning, you know, in my own way. So
nice.
Oh, cool.
Hey Bradley, when Gio was probably getting into the business, you needed a dongle to use your 3D software.
Yeah.
You couldn't even just fire it up. You had to have like a little USB stick that if you didn't have it, it wouldn't run.
My first software purchase, I was very proud of it. I saved up to buy 3D Studio Max version 2, and it came with a dongle. It was before Autodesk. I think it was by Kinetics. I think. I remember the box that came. Their software back then came in like this big bulky boxes with the dongle inside and manuals this thick. You know. It was just like multiple discs or CDs. But yeah, it was $3,000. I saved up from my McDonald's money or something. Plus my parents probably helped out too.
So that was what I was going to ask you too. Like, the way this sounds, it was like, okay, you went to school and then you jumped right into your dream career path. I always like to ask, what was the very young Gio doing before he got into the biz? Like, what were you working at McDonald's? You were, flipping burgers on the fry machine? Like, what were you doing?
Oh yeah, exactly that. I was working at McDonald's, which I think paved the way to how I was able to deal with stress and sort of just the day-to-day kind of challenges of life, because nothing really prepares you more than being in a kitchen, rush hour. I was like a production caller. I worked my way up to being a production caller. So I had commanded the kitchen, and I would like, hey, 3 burgers or 3 Big Macs, and like it was like coordinated like effort on everyone, like as a team, like a unit, to make sure that the rush hour line, snaking out of the store, all of those people were fed and not waiting. So I think that for me was such an important. When I look at my career, McDonald's I think was actually one of the more foundational aspects of why I'm a very and luckily for me successful in the industry because of I think the training that experience gave me. But yeah, I was essentially working at McDonald's, kind of like aimless at that point. I didn't really know what to do because I wasn't really good at much else outside of like drawing little doodles, So I was kind of like, I was prepared to kind of accept the fact that, and my parents were as well, to that I was just going to be in McDonald's for like the rest of my life, or something similar, because I wasn't really like a very I guess outstanding student at all. So
Yeah, like I always like to think and believe that like if everything that you do, even if it's like something that you don't want to do, like we all got to do what we don't want to do to get to what we want to do, but you always have to like find the experiences that are there that'll carry you forward. And I think like hearing you talk about like being in that environment, that team environment, that pressure environment, like pressure is pressure. Like there's different levels of it, but understanding like how to deal with the like we at the end of the day, we are always in the process of making other people satisfied at some level, right? Like as artists, like we were like, oh, I want to do art and I'm gonna make myself like happy. I'm like, when you go into art as a career, your job is to make other people happy.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the distinction that a lot of artists I think forget is a lot of artists I think get into this business for the purpose of making themselves happy, when you are at the service really of the client or the audience, right? Through someone else's vision, not yours, really. Now we have our own output for our personal art to express ourselves in the more kind of like self-serving, kind of selfish way as an artist. I want that adulation from my own vision. We have that output, but if you're in the commercial arts business, I think exactly what you said. You're in the business to make other people happy. So and then once you make that distinction, or once I had made that distinction, I think it was easier to navigate because I took things less personally, and I think I'm able to really navigate every point in my career, the challenges, in a way. Because once you take away the taking things personally part, now granted, we're still human. I'm still human. I would still, obviously, there's certain things that are like, you get pissed off, you vent, but once you really eliminate that personal aspect, then you just can't navigate through with ease, I feel, or more ease than usual. So
yeah, that's dope, man. So that's good. That's good info and good life advice and everything. Now we got the McDonald's part down. Tell folks for let's say somebody doesn't know who you are. Tell folks like some of the companies you've worked with, because Bradley was reading off just some of the guys that we didn't even know about, and we're like, oh my God. So if you wouldn't mind, run down some of the companies you've worked with and maybe some of the projects that you consider bucket list jobs in your career so far, things that you've really, you feel like, okay, I can cross this one off now and move on to the next one, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. Well, let me just minimize my window here. I hate seeing myself. All right. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, where do I begin? like a rewind flashback. So essentially, when I mentioned 80s kid, so I've always wanted to work for Star Wars, or for ILM, who made Star Wars and a lot of the movies I grew up with. And so that was always my goal. But prior to achieving that goal, which, thankfully I did, I worked in a lot of like many different kind of gigs, McDonald's being one of them, and a bunch of different like graphic design gigs. I was shipping and handling department at Toshiba, because I thought that would get me. It's like, Toshiba, they do computers, so that must mean they, back when I was like really didn't know how do I get in the industry, shipping and receiving at Toshiba, because they do computers. Well, they don't really do
There,
graphics.
that makes sense.
Medical computers, they do. Yeah,
Right,
strategic.
Of course.
So that kind of was, how McDonald's led me somewhere. Toshiba really was more of like the other side, the other way. But
Right.
I'll include that because it's a part of my resume. And then I saw this ad for there's so many. I actually went to Bethesda to work on Redguard video games. This was like early 90s, or late-ish 90s. So went to Maryland for Bethesda, and then worked a bunch again on like like one of those StarCraft style video games.
Okay.
Where I designed.
You were here in Maryland for a while?
I was there in Maryland, yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
I was in Maryland. I would always give this dude credit for starting me up. Chris Broadway Romero. We were in contact on the back then, IRC or whatever, early days of internet. I loved his stuff. He loved my stuff, and he got me a gig at Bethesda Softworks. So that was my first gig. I pretty much left Canada to go to Maryland and work there. But that was a little brutal because I was like, like my first experience with like working like to the bone. But again, one of those experiences that I never hope to experience again. But just like that kind of, it's not sustainable, and I definitely felt it even at a young age. But that set me up because from there I went back to Toronto and then did the video game again. These are all like vague memories because it's just like.
And you were born and raised in Toronto?
No, I was born in the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines.
Okay.
My family, my mom and dad, my sister, and I migrated to Canada when I was about 11. So that's made that move there. Landed when it was winter time, like a big
wow.
chance, like tropical kid, never seen like snow before.
Snow.
Like, instead of winter, East Coast winter,
It's Christmas.
It's what I see in movies. Wow. Yeah. But yeah, so went back to Toronto, and then did the like gig where I designed like 400 spaceships and aliens. That was fun, like in my parents' place, and then went to Texas for Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius because I saw an ad online about like like any interested in doing a computer graphics movie, and back then Toy Story obviously was like, Pixar was like very popular, like still starting out, and so I was like, yeah, why don't I take part in this if they take me? So I went to Texas.
Gio,
and then
Mike may not know this. Jimmy Neutron was a children's cartoon.
I know, with the big hair. He had like the ice cream hair, and I know it.
It was a Nickelodeon property as well.
Nickelodeon. Exactly. It was.
I do have kids, Bradley. I do have kids. I have kids your age. I know exactly how that works.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking.
That's more your generation, right, Bradley?
Yeah. Next, he's going to mansplain Dora the Explorer to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was then at Texas when I got I was using Hotmail. I remember like email from a dude. He's like, "Hey, are you interested to work at ILM?" I'm like, "That is bullshit. Really?" Like, all my life I've been wanting to work for this company. Sorry, I'm not allowed to swear here.
No, that's cool.
BS. I thought it was like some spam, but then sure. And then he replied back like with an ILM email this time, because the previous email was like something else. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, this is like my dreams facing me right in the face. This is like, do or die. Like, this is the opportunity for me to be able to either work at ILM or never work at ILM. So I sent like a CD of my portfolio. Long story short, got a job at ILM, was there for about 12 years. Got to work on like amazing movies that are just like checklists off my list of like, I got to work on a director that, Spielberg, grew up on Spielberg films, Star Wars, even though they were the prequels, I'll still put that check mark on there.
I love
they count.
I know your generation are like.
I love the prequels.
I know.
All right,
Yeah.
but I'm also not like a Star Wars lover to the extent that like I'm not gonna say fanatic because we have some Star Wars lovers in the room, but I'm definitely I'm a Trekkie. All right, I'm a Trekkie.
Okay, all right. Let's keep it moving, Gio. Let's keep it moving, Gio. Anyway, let's
roll over that topic right there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll cut that out later on. So you're at.
Yeah.
How many moves did it take to get to? So like, if this is a chessboard, how many moves did it take to get to ILM from your first art gig?
Oh my God! Like I told you, I was like a Toshiba. I was like.
That doesn't count. Art gig.
Oh man, a lot. I was even doing like post-production. I don't know. It seems like it was one of those where I wasn't even counting because I wasn't even planning to go to ILM because I thought it was just like out of reach for me,
Sure.
So it was just like a vague number of things. The moves I was making was for the purpose of gaining the industry experience. Yeah. Right. Not even like for me, I was not even like high thinking enough to kind of set goals on that level, when they say dream big, that wasn't really like that. But when it did happen and it showed me that dreams do come true. Because like I would literally, when I was a kid, all through my sort of like younger years as in high school, like I would like fantasize about it, working at ILM and all that stuff. So, I mean, I believe all that stuff helps, when you kind of like think about it and put it out there. So when it did happen, I'm like, yeah, I guess I was kind of making moves in that sense, I feel, right? So.
Did your family go bonkers when they found out you were working for the thing that you've kind of dreamed about since you were little?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely put them at ease, I bet. Because
I was gonna say, you went from that, oh shit, he's gonna be a starving artist to LM, what? They make Star Wars.
It's actually, he's gonna be, doing something with us for sure.
Exactly. Which is the far superior franchise between Star Wars and Star Trek. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I said that. I said it.
Here. It's more interesting than this interview. Like,
I don't think we should fight in front of company.
I think you should.
Company.
All right.
So in engaging and looking in your background, and since you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Right. So you have experience in high production shows. You have experience in statues. You've done some work for Sideshow. I
guess Sideshow. Yeah. Tweeterhead and then Sideshow. I think those. But my client is Tweeterhead, not Sideshow. But I guess since Sideshow's selling it, yeah, I guess yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, chicken, egg, whatever, Gio.
I just don't want to be like
people's dream, Gio. People's dream is to have their art be displayed in a fashion at a Sideshow or XM Studios. The dream, sure. the big dream. All right. So you've accomplished in your time, like you started in a production way, and I think given your experience in like doing for print and for production, I think currently you are working where, sir?
I'm working at Adobe.
Oh, a giant.
Since
A very,
Adobe,
very little known company. You guys probably don't know who they are.
Nobody knows
But,
about. Knows about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and also you're also like teaching. So like one of the things that like you also have courses on I think 3D Mold Academy where I had
3D.
the Mold 3D where I had the privilege of actually first being introduced to your work using ZBrush R473.
407.
Like 10 years ago.
473. You know, no,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so in are you still actively do you take on people now? Are you still training or teaching still?
In the role that I'm in at my current job at Adobe, in a sense, it allows me to be more out there. What I love about it is, it allows us, myself and my other super talented artists who I work with, we are out there teaching the software, the apps. We engage with people like through like this past SIGGRAPH. We have this portfolio review session, and it just reminds me that I love teaching and just interacting with other artists and sharing what I know. Like I was doing that since the Mold 3D thing, and that's when I really discovered my love for sharing my knowledge and the joy of seeing students actually appreciate what I had to say and teach, and have them implement it and be vocal about saying that the things that I've taught them actually mattered and made them better. So that's the stuff that kind of really gets me going. And I don't do it as much as I would want to now because of obviously other things that I have to do at work, and then like my personal work too. But it's definitely when I can, I love doing it.
So
Nice.
I will tell you that I am one of your Daniels in the Karate Kid, because like I had the experience, and I tell you no lie, like early on in my journey for like being a 3D artist, like I took one of your classes, and like then when I did this activity where you have this activity where you take a sphere and turn it into a cube and a cube back to a sphere. And I'm like I'm sitting there doing like, man, I could do this. I've did like ZBrush before with a rig and all this stuff. And I tell you no lie, when I did, that was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do, because you limited the tools that we had to do it and stuff like. But I will tell you this, like going back to that experience to now, like the thought process of doing that, like the hard to soft, the organics, like that made me feel like I can make anything. Like the principles that I've learned while doing that. Because at that point, like I think the main thing you're trying to teach is like it doesn't take much to create form, and learning these basics will help you on your road to create anything. And I can genuinely say like you've been one of my teachers that helped me like be able to make anything in my art career. So I'm very appreciative to that class.
Thank you for saying that, man. That's like the McDonald's thing, right? Like I think it shows that because I think I remember my whole theme for that class was let's go do this the hardest way possible, meaning get out of symmetry, do the thing that we were just talking about, the sphere to a box, and then I forgot what it was, but I designed that so it'll really put the discomfort, that feeling of discomfort, in the blood of all the students. Because I think it's the biggest. Whenever someone asks me like, "Hey, what's the best advice you can give?" It kind of morphed throughout the years, but now I think it's my best advice I can give is get used to that discomfort, because art is all about discomfort. Like you're always kind of going through a process of creation where at any point in time you can quit. Like you're, at least for me, like my mind's telling me, this is not looking good. This is not looking good. Just quit. And there's a discomfort in that. But if you get used to it, you always kind of see it through in a way that's like, oh, I'm at the end of that tunnel. Now I see where it's headed. So that whole exercise was essentially just that itchy feeling you kind of want to get rid of. Now I just like see it through. I think that's so important, I feel. So
Absolutely. Do you ever get the feeling that your art sometimes turns into it's almost like problem solving? You know what I mean? Like I start to see things as, it's funny because I think of like The Matrix is the first movie is one of my favorite movies ever, and I always think of that line, nice, that you know, it's like I don't even see the code. I see like redhead, blonde, brunette, or whatever, and so it's like you're looking at the you know, whatever the problem is in front of you, and if it's a design challenge, trying to figure out ways to solve it in your head, where it's almost like one of those Rubik's cubes or something.
Mm-hmm.
You do you ever kind of picture things that way also?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, especially if it's a design challenge, and I love those, but those are so hard for me. You know, kind of just trying to figure it out, because especially if it's for a client, or you know, you have a set of limitations, restrictions. Maybe for video games, you can't go above a certain resolution or whatever, but you have to make it look good. When I start thinking about things in sort of like a puzzle type of sense, that's where it becomes interesting and challenging, especially if the expectations of people are so low because, this software can't do that because, you know, it's so limited, like the whole VR thing. And I was like, okay, this to me, I want to prove you wrong. And then suddenly it becomes like a puzzle. How can we make this perception change, right? I guess I'm fueled by like kind of like low expectations from people, and I always want to prove them wrong. And it's usually always a puzzle problem you have to solve that someone's just not looking at. And once you solve it, it's clear that, oh, that's how you do it. But like, and those are the things I really love to kind of just marinate in, I think. Yeah.
It's satisfying when you figure it out too, right?
Oh, it's the most satisfying thing, because you're like, holy crap. And it makes you better. Like that discomfort of like, you know, when I'm in that mode, I'm just like, I just want to quit. What am I doing this for? It's never going to happen. And then when I am able to crack the code, it's like, oh, wow. The next one I do, it's so much better than the previous, and then I just become better at it, right? So, yeah.
So, and one thing I wanted to talk about, because like that like was a breakthrough for me, and given that your experience across multiple industries, and for me, when I first started, I wanted to be a good ZBrush artist, right? ZBrush artist. And then like when I got to a point where I wanted to like be employable, I just realized I need to be a good artist overall. And you know, we recently interviewed Raphael Phillips, and you know, I've seen his work and stuff like that. I'm like, oh man, he's a really cool ZBrush artist. I'm like, but he had more in his experience. Like I didn't know like he used a lot of Maya. Like he's using Maya to help create some stuff for his work. Are there any tools that you use outside of, because you know a lot of people when they engage with you or look at your work, they're like, oh, you were a ZBrush artist, but I think you use a lot more tools than that. Like what are your favorite tools when creating digital art?
You definitely use a lot of tools. My favorite, I mean, ZBrush and Modeler, Adobe Modeler, those two, because for Modeler, I essentially, you know, use VR to block in like the primary to tertiary forms, and then put that into ZBrush to like work on it in sort of like the more detailed sense of the workflow. But even beyond those two, like I've used Maya. One of my favorite modeling tools actually was at ILM. It was proprietary. I can never say that word. Proprietary to ILM. It was called, back then when I started, it was called iSculpt. This was before ZBrush or any tool, any app, 3D app that allowed you to sculpt the surface in a naturalistic way. It was like, I tell you, when I first used it, or when it was talked about, like, yeah, we have this tool at ILM where it's like clay, you push and pull. I'm like, whoa. Back then, it was like, yeah, that's not possible. So when I actually went there to use it, that was like my go-to tool. Like it was so good. I just used a mouse. I keep telling this story. Like at ILM, all of the models I created at ILM was created with a mouse using that tool. The Hulk, everything.
What?
Yeah. But that was probably my most favorite 3D app, because it allowed me to also do, the facial shapes and shape animation on top of like animation, like the shape correctives, like animate moving shapes essentially. Like, so if the rig breaks on the Hulk, I would just like sculpt it frame by frame essentially, which seems laborious, but it's like
a blend, like doing blend shapes
pose by pose. You're creating like the flexing of the muscles, but again, like through the discomfort and hardship of that, because there's a lot of work. Sometimes for a 2-second Hulk shot, there would be, or maybe like 5-second Hulk shot, there would be like 1,000 shapes, custom shapes. Sheesh. I would animate, overlap, and just like mix and match, right?
And this is the Avengers Hulk, correct?
This is the Avengers Hulk, yeah.
The Avengers Hulk, yeah.
The first one, just to be clear. I didn't work on the others, just the first one.
It doesn't matter. That first one set the standard. All right, go ahead.
That first one was dope. Yeah,
okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. First one set the standard. It was pretty
standard. Thank you. Good to hear that. But yeah, so and so there's that, and then I also use Maya. I started when I was at ILM. I was actually a hard surface modeler, so I used Alias Studio, which I love too. Like we were using NURBS to build all of the Star Wars vehicles, and we weren't allowed to use trims because we were using Mental Ray as a renderer, and we had to use patches. Essentially,
you can use trim sheets.
Yeah, you can use trims. Everything had to be tangential patches and B-splines.
Now, listen, you guys both know what trims mean. I don't know what that means, and I'm sure somebody's watching this and is like, "What is a trim?" Can you explain that?
The trim is it's basically you're like packing simple, like repeatable things in a UV space, and you're like reusing it across a model like repeatedly. That's my understanding of a trim.
Oh no, so trims in the sense of back. Yeah, I forgot you're a little younger. So trims back then in the context of NURBS modeling, at least back in those days at ILM, was if you had a surface, right, you can project a curve and extract a hole. Like say if you have this smooth car surface, you want to create a hole, you project that curve and that becomes a hole. I'm not a techie person. To my understanding is there's no the continuity of the NURBS then is disrupted when you create that hole and start doing a new surface around it. So what we had to do, because Mental Ray, I guess the limitations was, fairly specific. Everything had to be in squares, essentially, in patches. So to create that hole, I would have to strategize the splines, like graph the splines in squares to accommodate that hole. Well, Star Wars vehicles sometimes are like cars, right? Like there's swooping surfaces that blend into like kind of tighter surfaces. So it was hard. You had to be like a car designer. And thankfully, my first supervisor at ILM, Russell Paul, he used to work I think at BMW or something. He taught me a lot of that sort of process. But it was hard. I mean, I had no experience using NURBS, but I was just thrown in.
Were you using that for did you use that for the Naboo spacecraft? or something like
He
that.
did that one. Yeah, I did the speeder bike actually for Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones. So the speeder bike from Jedi, they took me to the ranch, actually, the archives, so I could take photos of the actual Jedi, Return of the Jedi speeder bike, and then use that to rebuild that. So, but that has like a smooth surface and then like these complex cuts that I had to kind of figure out how to do. So it was all fun, man. I mean, that was like, I was young back then, so I would stay there till like the wee hours just working. So trying to prove myself like everyone. So yeah.
Dude, I would have been geeking out probably to the point of getting fired. I don't know how I could have.
George is in the back. Is George in the back? Oh, go see George. He's in the back room.
You want to take him a call? I'll take him a coffee. Can I go take him a coffee?
Hey, George.
No, that's amazing. Because so one of your workflows, like, and I think you still do it to this day, that you mentioned is 3D, going in a actual 3D space and going in like, and when you're blocking out, then taking that into something traditional, either like a ZBrush or a Blender or something like that, the sculpt. So how much of your time do you spend in the Matrix?
A lot, actually. Lately I haven't been as much, but one time I was in VR for like 5 hours straight. Because you just lose time in that thing, like the world is like pretty much vanished, and you're just in there with this geometry you're kind of focused on. But I love it for the fact that you can see it, and you can see it as if it's there, I should say, in front of you, and you can use your hands, and you can stand up and move around. So it keeps it dynamic, and you're able to like look at it from different angles by moving your body and your head. So yeah.
How do you get around the fact that you don't have a tactile feedback though? Because I was talking to Bradley, like I love tech stuff, and I would love to, if I got a VR headset, it would be for the Half-Life Alyx and to sculpt. That's it.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine not having some type of a physical feedback like I have with my Wacom or something like that to sculpt. Like, how do you do that, man?
Just like with ZBrush, I knock everything down, like the settings, like the intensity. I knock it from like, say the ZBrush's default is what, like 30? I forgot. Like for say the move tool, I knock that all the way to 4 because it gives it weight. Right, so same thing with Modeler, Medium, the VR apps. I would knock it down to like around 5 or 4, because what that does is if it's a high setting and your hands, you're right, because you're working with air. If there's a sculpture here, or a sphere, I'm trying to like pull that 1-to-1. That's like if I'm drinking coffee and my hands are shaky, is going to introduce that shake. So knocking it down to 4 or 5. There's like a lazy mouse in there, right? Wow. So
is there something with your controller though? Do you have? I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm excited by this though. Is there something that how on those little what do you call the pucks or handheld, whatever the hell you call those things?
The controllers, I think is what. Yeah.
The controllers, yeah. So do they have some type of how on a PlayStation or Xbox you have the force feedback? Is there some type of a force feedback built into those?
The Quest Pro has like a feedback, or not it buzzes. It's not like feedback where there's pushback or anything, but there's an indication of interactivity. Yeah.
Okay.
And that helps, but honestly, like I've been doing this long enough to not even need that. I think once you get into it, it just becomes like, it's natural, because once you lower the setting, and then like what I do is I don't really like hover my arms like this. Sorry, like this. I put them like this, like elbow to my rib cage.
Okay.
Do this because this is fatiguing, right? This is more like like I call it T-Rex arms. You're kind of just like doing this, and I could do this for like hours. You're kind of just doing that and this. So it obviously drink water too, but
Yeah.
as someone who sculpts statues like yourself, I think you would really appreciate it. And I'm not just saying that because I work for Adobe or anything. It really is the most sculptural way of building something, because when you're
Hmm.
talking about forms, right? And then you can just take that to ZBrush, Blender, and really go to town on it. I don't use the VR stuff for like the detailing stuff. It's just
Okay.
for
Lock-ins.
block-ins of the form, like pose, form, and just because it's SDF, right? Instead of polygons, so it's like clay. You can just like slice and dice. You work on the silhouette. You just take a knife. You just slice it. You don't have to worry about topology. So yeah, it's just like clay. It's the closest thing to clay in the digital sense that I think we
It's
have.
dope.
Yeah.
Okay. What type of headset do you have? And then
I have a Quest 2. I keep telling people who ask me like, "Hey, what should I buy?" I would definitely suggest Quest, but wait for the Quest 3, because I believe the Quest 3 is about to come out. So I would suggest to wait for that instead of buying a Quest 2 right now. I also have a Quest Pro, which is awesome, but that is a little bit. I don't think the price of that currently justifies the what it could offer. It's a lot clearer and more high end, but I think for just getting into this and doing art for the first time in VR, Quest 2 or 3 would be perfect. So.
And you only use it for art, or do you kind of mess around with games and stuff?
I'm not really a gamer, honestly. So it's just all pure art, just sculpting with it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been wanting to dabble in VR, but I really like AR I think is where like everything needs like I think AR is definitely the future. Like being able, I think with the Apple, have you seen the Apple AR set and your thoughts on that? Because I think being able to take my ZBrush or Blender and actually like have it like project out in the environment is like cool and amazing. I just imagine like sitting at my desk and having my laptop closed, my Wacom tablet, not Cintiq, and just being able to look up like straight ahead and being able to sculpt and just be like forget all these monitors, just like having like I think like AR is it. Like, do you have any thoughts on AR versus VR, or you think it's all great?
Oh, I'm with you. I think well, I mean, I've only ever really seen the Vision Pro in the commercial or the videos, but like what you're saying, right? Like, especially if I'm really curious about the optics, like how crisp it is. If all that's in place, then yeah, just like having a big monitor or AR sculpting for me, like if I'm there in the real world with whatever AR contraption, it could be Apple or whatever else, and I have this high resolution display and there's this digital clay in front of me in the real world, right? It becomes more social. I could be sculpting with my friends, or I could do like a sculpting session with a live model, and I'm just there instead of like play. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can't do that in VR. VR is a very solitary experience, and I think obviously I've been using it, and we are in it because of the current limitations of what the technology could do. Because AR just takes a lot more, I guess, technology to pull off properly. But I'm just waiting for the point where it's AR and I'm able to sculpt in reality, or have the option to turn it to VR, and it's like, I don't want to see you guys, like I'm in my own world. Introvert mode, we'll call it. Yeah. So, but having that option, but I would choose AR for sure.
Just so you know, Bradley needs the most expensive solution at any given time when it comes to technology. So that's why he brought up the Apple
it's the only one. So I think
$3,500 machine.
I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay that. All right. But when I saw that they looked at the Mac, and then after looking at the Mac, it became like in AR just by looking at it. I'm like, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna pay for this.
I felt the same way when I saw them with that failed Microsoft thing where they had Minecraft on the table. Dude, I saw like some little kid was like, "Oh, here's my kitchen table," and then he put the goggles on, and it was the glasses, and then there's like a whole the Halo lens, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "When is that coming out?" And Bradley's like, "Yeah, no, that never came out. It failed."
So. Yeah. Well, with the Apple thing, I think you'll save up a lot of money by not buying those expensive monitors and what were they selling the stand, like the little stand?
Yeah, the stand was like an extra $500 or something like that.
It was $1,000.
Yeah. Was it $1,000?
Yeah,
it's $1,000 for the stand.
Yeah, a monitor as big as your wall with a Vision Pro.
Do you use a iPad Pro to do any drawing or anything like that? Any sketches or just concepting?
Yeah. I use the iPad. I use I have Nomad in there. Nomad Sculpt. I use what's the Adobe one? Fresco. Oh, I should use it more. I like using my sketchbook, but when I am in my iPad, I use Fresco, and then a little bit of Nomad just to kind of do some sculpting and keep up with what's out there as well. So
nice.
So you like trying to keep up with the young kids because we're coming.
Yeah, because like I see a lot of Nomad, like me being old school ZBrush user, and Modeler is an up and coming one. So, but I've been using ZBrush for a while. I got to keep up with the latest lingo.
I tried using Nomad, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, let me just go to ZBrush. Like, it's hard. The learning curve is steep, man.
It is. I wanna use it too, man. Like that. And what's the Maxon one, Bradley?
The Maxon one is Forger.
Forger. Yeah, I want to use those.
I didn't know that's Maxon. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like I want to use them, but I'm like, okay, I need to keep it. Like, I need to keep keyboard while I'm doing them. Right, but with just the pad, how do you do that? I know you can, but how do you do that with just a stylus? Like, what are you doing? How do you do that?
The side, you can have like the shortcut, I think, right? Or just on Nomad and Forger. Yeah. Well, I think I've been using my fingers and the thing to zoom in. It seems
like he's also making something out of thin air in VR, so
exactly,
grab it out of hat.
He's fully in the holodeck over there. So
he's like, I can touch this. This is easy.
Yeah, I stuck with air, man. This is gonna be
that Hulk that's on your ArtStation. Did you start that in VR?
Oh no, that was. Wait, I did a lot. I keep forgetting. I did a Hulk that was in VR. There was a render of a Hulk kind of pose, kind of like looking off on the side. That was the ZBrush one. But the VR one, I really like that one. I was referencing a lot of Andy Bergholtz's work for the Hulk.
Nice.
Like, you probably know his stuff. He's amazing. So, yeah.
So I want to ask you two things before we go to the art section, if that's okay, Bradley.
Yeah.
I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, but so while Bradley was introduced to you through the class, I kind of knew who Gio was before I knew who Gio was, and that was because before even your brush.
Thank you, Papa.
Hey, don't step on my lead. I'm getting there. Give me a minute. So, but no. I saw your Tweeter head, Trapjaw, and was like, so I saw it back when, what was that? What's the show where they announced it and showed like the pre-production? Yeah. Dude, I saw that and immediately called Bradley and my friend Brad Grotman, and we were just like geeking out over it, right? Like it was some next level ish, right? So I was like, oh my God, look at this Trapjaw, it's crazy. So I said, if it ever comes out, I'm going to get this thing. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I even in a new house, I ran out of room for statues. I don't have rooms for any statues. But the day that they had the pre-order come online at Sideshow, I was like, oh, bet, put my money down, take my money, please. And so I pre-ordered it. And then I only saw Tweeterhead. Like, obviously it didn't have, I didn't see your name on there yet. It just said like coming soon. And later on I found out you did it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that, we had the conversation about that and everything. But that was how, and then I found out about the brush. So now imagine that Gio didn't say anything about the brush. This is me being clever.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you become a brush, my friend? How did that whole transaction go down with you and Pablo? How'd that come about?
Yeah. It was really very surprising. He just literally emailed me, "Hey Gio, I have this brush. I'm obviously like I'm not verbatim word for word, but trying to recall. Like he essentially was inspired by the way I executed forms. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to create a brush that captured that and name it after me. And I'm like, if that ain't the best thing to hear as an artist, I don't know what it is. I was just like, and considering Pablo is like, in my book, like one of the best people out there to do what he's doing, servicing the community, doing the resources that he puts out, and just the amount of brushes he makes that are just like amazing. I was like, hell yeah, like sure, like of course, I cannot say no to that. So and I was kind of like, wow, it's kind of gonna be pretty funny having my name on a brush, and I don't know if people are gonna use it, but it was like people,
dude,
how love it, man.
We all.
How does it feel being the new? Yeah, I'm saying, like, how does it feel being the new damn standard? You're the new Damien standard.
Yeah, that's a big crown to take, all right?
Right?
I don't know if I'm taking it. I mean, I would.
Well, you took it.
Damn standard always has, and granted, I did not do any work on that brush. Pablo's gonna get all the props here, but damn standard is like it still has a definitely soft space in my heart, but. I use the Gio brush now, but I also have the damn standard there still because I'm a very sentimental fella. Like I can't just let go.
Nice.
But that was our bread and butter, man. The damn standard.
Absolutely. Every day I use that brush, man.
Yeah.
And now every day I use yours too. Like it's gotten me out of some pickles, man, that I didn't even know I was in. Yeah, but shout out to ZBrush Guides if you guys haven't gone to Pablo's site, you can get his brush, get the Gio brushes done.
And remember, Gio had nothing to do with it. He was only the inspiration.
Gio was only the inspiration for that brush. That's all he did. Right?
So Pablo did all the work. He should get all the adulation. I'm just riding along for the name.
But just so you know, like I'm at work, I'm fancy. I'm gonna use my Giovanni brush.
Oh, Giovanni, like my mom. Like, what did I do wrong?
I'm gonna use my Giovanni brush.
Nice. All right.
So early on, when we started, we were talking about VR, right? And lucky enough for us, on your Instagram, there's a lot of videos of you going through this process of using Medium. But when I'm looking at this, Modeler. When I look at this reminds me of the class that I took that you're talking about, like from the bubbles, like the volumes and the shapes. So one, this is really cool.
You remember, that's good.
I do. So like, what's your thought process when you're like doing this? Because this is amazing.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like thought processes, I just want to create as clean and well designed a shape hierarchy as I can. Not yet at this point. I still see a lot of errors, but whenever I'm in VR, it's those water balloons actually. Like always thinking about how they stretch, where the gravity is, where the highlight is, making sure that each of the muscle groups in the silhouette isn't, like bulgy, like how kids draw like clouds, like boop, 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 like creating tension. And that's what I love VR for, is that you could just like pull and just kind of manipulate that in all the different axes that a flat monitor can't allow you to do, right? You have depth to play with, just like reality. So just contending with all those things in my head as I'm building something like this, or when I'm in VR.
How are you able to, like, are you able to group these things in folders? Like I saw you manipulating the fingers like they're actually joined together. How are you doing that?
So essentially, and Modeler doesn't even have an outliner. And so what you could do is select multiple different groups, like say the fingers, and parent that onto the fist or the hand. And then that's its own group, parent it onto the lower arm, develop like a hierarchy. And that's what I was doing with the previous video, is all that is, all those parts are parented accordingly, so that when I move the chest, all of the upper limbs move. And then I can kind of, what we call, I think we're still calling it scoping in, maybe that's different now. You can kind of go inside that group, and then first group in there, the subgroup are the arms, you can pose that. But what's interesting with this is I tried to develop, you would know, like the shoulder girdle is one of the toughest things to work on, right? So I tried to do it so that the group, the shoulder girdle group, with the scapula at the back, the clavicle, and then the traps, when I rotate that group, it acts accordingly.
Solid.
So yeah, and it just makes it easier for me, like, because at the end I can't really, get the exact, like, oh, when I lift the shoulder, the traps react like it's being compressed. No, this doesn't do that. I will just have to sculpt that water balloon up, right? But it makes it so much faster to do these types of poses. And I'm gonna do more of this to kind of really show off that mannequin. And my hope is that I can hopefully give it to the community, and then they can have it for their own use, just to start off with.
This is beautiful. Is this all in VR at this point?
Yeah. Now this was medium. So the medium is the previous to Modeler, what I started with. Yeah. This was all VR.
This seems like an amazing way to really get a handle on anatomy, like even better than ever, because you can like really kind of get around it and see how everything moves. For sure, man. Like you're moving like I said, I'm moving my head to like really trace the depth on that form, instead of a flat monitor. You're looking at a quote unquote 3D model. It's still flat. This one is literally there in front of you. So, well, not literally, but semi-literally.
How are you?
I love these organic forms, man.
What was that?
How are you actually capturing the video when you're doing this? Because I'm thinking, like, how can we get you in VR on our show? Maybe on our show we can get you.
Well, that's what I was. That's actually my plan, is to do primary, secondary, tertiary, and I know the character that I don't want to give spoilers, but I have an idea of what to do with the X-Men thing. But
oh man, come on, bro. All right, we're doing an X-Men thing. All right, Gio, just
I'll show. Like, I want to be in VR, and cool. And then we will take it to ZBrush, because I definitely want to show off that process, because people think, well, Gio only does VR. No, I'm still a ZBrush user, and I still love using ZBrush. So yeah.
Even still, though, like, I'm not seeing this level of, and granted, I don't really keep up with VR sculpting, but these forms, man, they're undeniable. Like, this is beautiful, dude.
Thank you, man. And that's just like, I think, because I work non-destructively. That's the beauty of working with, when you start thinking of things as shapes, right? Because I think what I love about VR is, compared to ZBrush or the brush mentality or process, brush way of working, it's a buildup, right? Like ZBrush, you're building up from one surface. So you have a sphere. I'm pushing and pulling, stemming from that one surface, dynameshing it to rearrange the topology. With the VR stuff, I am dealing with shapes. I'm deconstructing the character in these like strong shapes, and these are separate layers I'm manipulating. And when you're working with that, man, that's like golden, because you're thinking of you're paying attention to each shape in the right way. Like you're devoting the ample attention versus, for me, ZBrush, it's very sketchy. I'm going to sketch the deltoid. I'm going to move on to the bicep. Yeah. So I'm not paying as much attention to in VR. I'm just there like stretching, making sure the ratio is good from the delt to the bicep. Like, does that look balanced? I'm just there kind of nudging it, So there's a difference in workflows, I think that. And not to say one's better than the other, because, with ZBrush, if you're an amazing illustrator, that's all you need to make stuff look like it can sing, right? So.
How long do you generally stay in symmetry before you break it?
I've been pretty lazy lately. Like say this one, I didn't even bother adding asymmetrical aspects to it. Yeah. I figured after that class for Mold 3D, I was like, that's it. I'm gonna just like, kind of sail away and not really do anything hard anymore. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. So it depends on the piece. Like sometimes after I have like for the Tweeterhead or sideshow statues, for Trapjaw, for example, like that's the most freaking asymmetric character you could, like with the big, arm. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, man.
With the big arms, and then like, I pretty much just blocked in the base proportions, and then Dave Igo, who was my art director for this one, we were just like, oh fuck it, let's just get him out of symmetry and pose him, and then treat it as a sculpture, just like. But I think I still have that arm as symmetry. I think.
Can we just for a second just appreciate how dope this piece is? I mean, everybody knows. All right, Gio does his thing, but this piece, come on, man, this shit probably will get me in trouble. I'm just saying. When it comes,
wait till you see the next one, Beastman. I think it's even going to be doper than this one, man. I think your wallet's
take it easy. No, take it easy. I can't do anymore. That's it. I just got married. You trying to mess that up for me? Don't do that.
Well, you got to decide between this or Beastman.
He already bought this
all day. Oh, no, this is purchased. This is like, dude, when this is hell yeah. Right. Come on, this is amazing. How'd you figure out that arm? Was that kind of in the concept, or you designed the arm?
So it was a bit of both. Dave and I. So Dave came up with the important ingredient, because we were trying to figure out Trapjaw. Like with this legend line, like his whole thing is, if Masters of the Universe was made as like a Lord of the Rings, like a real film, like with real people, not CG or cartoon, this would be like, these would be the characters, like, so they had to be like on a level that's like film quality, right, in terms of the design. And so we were kind of like, well, and Trapjaw in the cartoon, I mean, classic design, but he looks hokey, like purple and like with it's just like not really conducive to like, well, how do we make that work? So Dave was like, what if we treat this guy as like an orc, like an orc who works with orc technology, forms. He's like a Q, like James Bond's Q, like the genius engineer who just like hammers technology into like something deadly. So but with a twist of like Sauron orc. And so with that in mind, I was doing a lot of sketches for Dave, with like Sauron. I mean, if you look at that shoulder there, that's like Sauron, right? And then you have like aspects, there's teeth. So I really wanted to communicate like this is like a monster creature orc. I want to rock and roll, heavy metal, like I want it all in that arm, right? Like I even put like at the back like chains, like gigantic motorcycle type chains that like I figured that's how, you know, when, because I always design things like as if what would it do when it's in movement, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like when that arm pivots, like you could just imagine those chains like move, like, you know, like there's just like some machinery in there that, yeah. So like all like motorcycle parts too, like those exhausts. So I just like put things that seem to make sense. And at the end of the day, it just had to look like it was menacing. But I still didn't want to overwhelm it in terms of like detail. I still wanted to hopefully retain some readability in there in terms of, you know, primary shape, secondary, like the class essentially. You know, like just abiding by that concept. But keeping it detailed enough that makes you kind of fascinated of like, hopefully like, oh, how does this work? Oh, I see that. That's going to pivot when the arms kind of move and blah, blah, blah.
And you can see that. Like, that's one of the things I appreciate the most out of it, in addition to just the design of it, but the fact that everything there makes sense. Even like those big, it looks like in order to put the arm on, you have to like crank that like that. Dude, that's the shit right there, man. Like, I love that part. That's
so Brian, the Kacharik brothers did an initial drawing that we based off of. So I gotta give him props for that too. So along with myself, there's obviously Dave, and then there's Brian, and Amilcar Aldanafong did the base for that, and I believe another artist did the variant for the arm, based on loosely on my design as well. So yeah.
So did you block out some of this in VR and then go into ZBrush? Like, did you follow your normal pipeline?
Yeah, I blocked them in Medium back in those days, because Adobe Modeler wasn't really at the state that it was in yet. So yeah, I blocked them in Medium in VR. Excuse me.
And what did you do for the hard surface parts? Like, did you like? So how's your hard surface workflow?
So I was tempted to do it all in Maya, which I would have, but I was like, I want to see how far I can take this in ZBrush without even using any of the poly modeling tools, and like the sphere to a box to that exercise, just sculpt it from a sphere, because I figured all the imperfections, whatever they are, will just make it seem natural, like it was hammered into place, rather than this, like, had I done it in Maya or some kind of NURBS modeler, it would have been this it would have like not have had as much character, I felt. So all the edges, all the sharpness in there was all like, shout out to Damn Standard. That was before the GeoBrush.
Oh, geez.
Boots too?
Yeah, boots, everything. All the hard surface that you see there is hand sculpted. Yeah.
Sheesh. That's crazy.
I'm just trying to make you feel like you get your money's worth. So,
come on, bro. Yeah. That's a grail piece. That's a grail piece. I'm telling you right now. I'm very happy with that. Now, little thing about Bradley that you don't know, he is not a fan of scary things. So I saw Bradley. You clicked on the piece 2 over. Yeah, you know the one. Clicked on that, and you immediately clicked off of that. So what happened? A little too creepy. Is that what happened?
The things that people think of in their dreams, like so.
That is nightmare fuel right there.
So what's great with this is that you use Substance 3D modeler, and I'm like, so what was the workflow for this? And this is amazing, being done with modeler.
If you actually go to my Instagram, I can show you.
Cool.
Talk you through. And that one's less scary because it's a work in progress.
No, it was scary. It was all
not even that one. Go to the main page, not the Reels section. Yeah,
sure.
It's a pin one. Yeah, the middle one there. So, so this is a great video to show essentially my process. So as you saw there, like starting off primary, and then these are like more tertiary shapes, and then you can even like add some detail in there. So the fingers are kind of what's called instance geometry. So if you add a fingernail, it propagates on the other fingers. But yeah, it's just essentially what you see here. And this is desktop, so you can actually use the Wacom on it as well.
Oh, so this is that was model. Wow, modeler is that came
Both
a
desktop
long way.
and yeah.
Wow.
Wait, there's a desktop mode for modeler?
Yeah. You take off your headset and you're in desktop mode, and then you put on your headset, you're in VR mode, so it's seamless.
Man,
we added it. Yeah, we added a desktop version.
You made me want to play with that. I love how you did the veins too. That was sick.
Yeah, it's a separate layer, and then you just merge it in together, essentially.
So you said that the fingers were instances. How heavy do these models get in VR?
Fairly heavy for this one, because I like to work with high resolution, not necessarily for detail, but like SDF, the lower the resolution, it gets a little chunky. So
Mhm.
I kind of, with semi-high resolution layers, and I like to work in many layers, then it kind of gets a little heavy, but still, kind of fast enough for me to be in there. This is a pretty heavy scene. Like that basket weave, and like you get like all the resolution in there for the base.
Oh, you're using Stager to render it. Oh, that's cool, man.
Dude, can I tell you, I'm so excited for you to come on the show. I'm going to pick your brain real hard about some of this. Like, I was looking at how you did that box and got the design on the front of it. It almost looked like it was Blender or something, the way that you were cutting those forms in there.
Oh, for
like yeah. That's crazy to me, man. Your fingers too. Your fingers reminded me of the Hogarth drawing dynamic whatever. The fingers, the big knuckles. That's dope. That's a nice little throwback.
I really accentuated the knuckles. Yeah, see, this is pretty cool. Like you can just radial array that, and then kind of.
Oh my gosh, dude! I'm doing it wrong.
You make modeler look so easy.
I'm doing it so wrong, man. Oh my god.
But yeah, look at this. It's just like separate shapes, right? And then you just merge it. You kind of just moving things around. You gotta use it.
Showing off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I definitely need to see. I'm gonna reverse engineer this whole thing. That's crazy, dude. That looks amazing.
And then you brought it into Substance. Like, wow. Is there a bridge from modeler to Substance where you would just send this over to that, or because were there UVs? Like, don't you need UVs for Substance?
Yeah, modeler you can export out UVs and like control the resolution, so you could export out a high res, a low res, bake models. It's fairly. But if you want more of a like properly laid out UVs, it doesn't do that yet. You have to like bring it into Maya or Blender to unwrap it with the correct way, I guess. But it has sort of like a UV master type unfold, essentially.
How long of a learning curve was it for you to really get the hang of modeler?
Well, it wasn't even modeler; it was a medium back in the day, and I always tell the story like when medium first came out, I tried it. I was like, it's not really for me. Like where you're at now, exactly where I was. It's not for me. So I put it away. 6 months later, I was like, there's just something there. Like there's again, the challenge, that the cracking the puzzle, the code, right? It's like there's something there that if I just see myself through this discomfort, because as I was using it, it's such a different feeling from obviously Wacom or pen to surface, right? That's how I've worked all my career at that point. But once you get that aha moment, it was like, holy cow, this makes so much sense. especially if
Yeah.
you are very shapes based thinking kind of a sculptor, which I feel like a lot of sculptors should train themselves in, to be honest, like look at things in shapes, because that's like essentially the foundational stuff, right? So this trains you for that.
I was having a conversation the other day with someone, and it was about, and I add you to this group now, but there's something about someone who is able to make the process and the software look easy, and that comes through a mastery of it that takes hundreds of hours to really get into, right? So this is not to diminish anything that you or somebody like Michael Pavlovich or people like that can do, but when you look at you guys' work, and I'm sure the speeding it up helps, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
for
hey,
sure. Like,
he did this thing in 60 seconds. But
yeah.
right. But looking at that primal, dude, that primal is so crazy. But looking at that it makes me want to play with the software, which is like the highest praise I can think of now. Because I wasn't
That's
thinking
good.
about no model or anything like that. But now totally. Can you go up to the primal dinosaur, Bradley? I don't think he's watched the series yet. Right there. Stop. To the
And I believe
right.
To the right, and I have it on his art station, the higher resolution.
Yeah. Dude, so I keep telling Bradley, stop everything you're doing and watch this animation because it's one of the dopest things I've ever seen. But just this sculpt, man, like you so nailed it.
That was a hard one because obviously the style is just like Mike Mignola's, like the Hellboy stuff. It's like, because I'm always tempted, like I kind of felt like I went overboard with the leg, like the muscles, just want a little Gio brush in there. When I think the cartoon would have been like more simplified. But this was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, it's so dope, man. I love it. Talk about forms, like
Colby, Colby Jukes. He's an amazing. I consider him to be one of the best out there too. He did a primal as well. That one I think is more on point than this one. It was just like the cartoon.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
While looking at your art, like, because what tip that you can give someone that will kind of like that aha moment where it slows down, like everyone's like they're always asking these questions like what level are you using Dynamesh, are you using ZRemesh, are you using low, are you using high, like what tip will you give someone who's sculpting to be able to get to or close to the level of what they're seeing here with your shapes and stuff like that?
I think like that's tricky because there's many, right? But one important one I think that is foundational to a lot of this is and I think I touched on this in the class, keep looking at all the different angles. Don't just be stuck with one. If you want this piece you're working on to look like everything just marries together nicely, look at it constantly. Assess, analyze each form, silhouette. Always pay attention and not fixate on one view. Just keep turning. For me, when I'm working, I do an operation like a move or something, and then I look at it. I look at it from all different angles to make sure that it is doing service and not a disservice to the silhouette in all its infinite views, right? Because you're having to worry about infinite silhouettes. So do what you can to always assess each form and treat each form as important as the sexiest form, may it be primary, secondary, or tertiary. I even like when I go down to like the details of things, like I even like just all the pores, like sometimes I just make sure like when I accent it, oh, that form needs to look good, because that's an accent form, and that's like a tiny dot. So just thinking that way, like you're always assessing, rotating, analyzing, and I think once you get in that way of thinking, all this becomes easy, like because and natural, because it becomes intuitive. And I think that, and there are many different camps. Obviously, for me, I'm in the camp of like all this stuff is more important than detail, right? If I see a lot of artists devote their time in the detail, the pores, the fun, juicy stuff. When if you take the energy that you've spent there, you've already spent it there. Put that into this. I promise you, the level of where you could be, it just shoots up incrementally. And all this stuff I'm regurgitating from like Carlos Swante, who essentially taught me everything I know about all this stuff. And like just look at his work.
Yeah.
Dude doesn't lie.
Did you ever train with him, or did you just were a fan of his art?
He mentored me essentially.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. We met at ILM, and in every interview I do, I always give him the credit of teaching me, and I am what I am now because of what he taught me, essentially. Primary forms, secondary forms, tertiary forms, that was all him. Like that's those are concepts I've learned from him. So yeah.
How about things like posing and getting because I noticed that with all of your pieces and all of your poses, they all have a sense of weight to them. They all have a sense of balance. That was that something that was kind of intuitive for you, or you learned it over the years through trial and error? Was it ever difficult for you? Any of this stuff?
I think it became intuitive. It wasn't at first. I attended a lot of sculpting and drawing sessions with a live model, and also like remember when I was mentioning like modeling frame by frame, like at ILM, like that was actually really also like one of the foundational kind of experiences for me to get me to know about posing, because I really studied like how the shoulder,
stay on there for a second, Bradley.
The shoulder. Yeah, I think that was a good one to land on. The samurai. So the importance of the shoulder, the tilt of the shoulder, right? The contrapposto, like the drama you can add when you think about the shoulder as a unit of consisting of the clavicle, the scapula, the deltoid, you name it, the lat. So when you move one, when a character is raising their arm, like this whole thing lifts. And I think I see a lot of staticness because in a lot of pieces, because that doesn't move. You just move that.
Just move the arm.
Always counter. Yeah, it's a counterbalance. And then the pelvis, and then the rotation of that too. Like playing with those elements, I think just adds so much when I learned what a good sort of balance is, and thinking about like the center of balance, and just sort of like kind of leaning into exaggerating the pose a little bit so it doesn't become static or stiff. Like you're essentially when you're sculpting a piece in action, like say the Flash. I had Daniel Bell, sculptor Daniel Bell. He did this amazing Flash, run, and what he did was he distorted those limbs, like it was like it's almost like it's bending, like because of it's like a Gumby, but it worked because it communicated that there's motion to it. So adding a little bit of that and not be too like anatomically accurate about but it would never, the ratio of that arm should not be that long. No, it's whatever feels right. And that's how I treat all my poses, is maybe the arms don't match up with each other because of that pose, but if it feels right, I'll go with it. Like this one, if you measure those arms, I bet the one that's extended is longer than the one that's folded, but for me, it felt right,
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. I love it. This is one of my favorite pieces, actually.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually gonna finish this up. Like I'll redo, or not redo it, but like refine it, and I want to print it out as a statue.
Nice.
Yeah, bro. Your range is like amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
100%.
like the range, like the range. Is this the same samurai guy?
Same actor it's based from,
Okay.
Toshiro Mifune, but it's a different model essentially. This one's from Hidden Fortress, the movie, the Kurosawa movie.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I was going to ask if it was Kurosawa.
Like
It was,
even your sketchy stuff is solid.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
even your sketchy stuff is solid.
That's where I like to
Just
kind
go
of
for it.
put it to rest, though. Like, I don't really like the detail, but if I'm working on a statue, obviously I can't be like, "Yo, this is sketchy stuff, pay me," So
I would
Man.
love to see your take on Lone Wolf and Cub.
oh yeah, that would be a good one. There's so many things I want to do. Like that. That's a good idea, actually. Lone Wolf and Cub.
Like like stuff like this. Like, how are you sleeping? Are you sleeping okay? Do you?
This was a pandemic thing, so
Are you sleeping okay? I'm scared to scroll down, but are you sleeping?
Dude, Bradley, you need to research his mentor, man. Like Carlos's stuff is
Carlos.
nightmare fuel for real, but it's beautifully scary.
Yeah.
Like that guy that's kind of eating. Yeah, that one right there. That reminds me of something that he could do.
Like
I had to take this out of Instagram because I think I was shadow banned. Yeah, I got a pretty demented side, honestly.
Oh, I love this. Like when I saw this, I'm like this.
Oh yeah, you did this
You
with
like
like.
this one?
Did you do this like layers or something? How'd you get this? This is animated in ZBrush, yeah?
Yeah. So I just created the layers and then the animation timeline. I would animate each. I think this had a bunch of shapes in them. So this stems from my experience at ILM, right? Like, because I wanted that software, and the closest I have is ZBrush to be able to animate my sculpts in the way that I was able to at ILM.
Yeah.
So this was it. And I did another
That's
one.
dope.
I'm doing like an alien, one of those 1950s alien skull brain creatures. Started kind of like doing some animation on it too. So
Nice. Yeah, it's dope, man. I love it.
Jeez. Attention to detail.
We have a friend that's an animator, and he was just kind of looking at that like, oh my gosh, dude, he did that all in ZBrush.
Oh, yeah. This was my audition for Tweeterhead for Dave Igo.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, do me a Batman, because I wanted to work. He was gonna give me Thundercats, so Panthro. That was my first statue for Tweeterhead, but I had to first do a Batman for him.
Nice.
Like Alex Rossi Batman, as I figured. Some hard surface stuff.
Man. Yeah.
This is all ill, man. I love that paper T-Rex too. What made you think of doing that?
This was when I was at Oculus, actually. This was a real-time experience that we did with Samsung Galaxy Pro. So this thing was animated, and this butterfly was an origami thing. It kind of formed from like a flat paper, and it kind of formed into that, and this T-Rex starts chasing it around. It was pretty cool. I was like trying to figure out, okay, how would I design a T-Rex that looks like it was folded from paper? And I just kind of winged it. I was like actually trying to do one. I'm like, this is never gonna work. I'm just gonna do what feels right, you know.
Nice. Yeah, it's fresh, man. Samsung, that's not a bad client.
Yeah, well, they were the VR headset that was doing the mobile back when I was at Oculus. This was before the Quest, so they were they were the ones who supplied us with the that mobile VR headset. So yeah.
Could you work in? You can do artwork in that though, could you? Like I have that one actually, connects to my phone. Could you do anything with that?
No. You can just you can just watch movies and like those VR roller coaster rides, you know. Like,
So I got a question for you, Gio.
Yeah.
What are you not so good at?
Yeah, that's maybe the best question. What can't you do?
Where's the struggle? Like if you were doing something, like what do you do that's like, just gonna take me a little longer? Like where's the struggle point?
Animation right now. I really want to be actually, like, you know what they say, this is not my final form. I really want to be an animator now. That's because that's like taking all this, what I know from posing, from anatomy, a lot of these animated shapes that I've been doing. So, and I've been like doing some rough tests, and I'm not very good at it right now. So I'm gonna marinate in that discomfort until I get better at it. But I hope
we know a guy.
At it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Introduce me.
We might even get you a mentor. We know a guy.
Hey, yeah. I mean, I'm always like, mentors always. I believe in that stuff.
Do you ever do any? Do you ever mess around with any monster clay these days, or Sculpey, or anything like that?
I used to. That's one thing I've been meaning to get back to as well. Just sculpting clay. That used to be like a big, like, passion of mine, like clay sculpting. And then VR came along and kind of took my attention from it.
Yeah. I mean, as I look at this stuff, I'm just thinking of all the, the finish. Because that's the best thing about messing with physical clay. At the end of the day, you have like a nice maquette that you can, look at all day long. So as I look at these, I'm like, man, you could have like an amazing collection of stuff with just all the stuff floating around in your head. Dude. Real talk, that's one of my favorite Hulks ever. Like, I love that Hulk, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
That was the I love the Hulk when his hair was like, sort of like a little rim on top.
Yeah,
it's like a
little bowl cut.
Yeah. I love that, and then the Kirby Hulk, where it's like kind of like 1970s style hair, which I think that's what I was trying to do with one of the Hulks that I did. But that bowl cut was that's one of my favorite Hulk styles right there.
Yeah. No, so dope.
So, Mike, you realize that when I asked him what is he not so good at, he picked another craft. Like he picked
a whole nother thing. He's probably like, I'm not that good of a motorcycle racer.
I'm
not that good of a surgeon. Yeah. So
exactly.
Some people say I'll struggle with a little hard surface. I don't like feet. This man said making things move like it's a Pixar animation is
but good at. I think I've been doing this so long that I'm comfortable to kind of take on anything new within this realm of modeling, right? Like, give me style. Like, next time I want to start doing some stylized, like Disney type stuff. And it's just like, since I know the recipe to get from point A to point B, it's the same with anything, hard surface, this, that, or whatever. And I'm lucky in that I have many interests. Like, I'm interested in a lot of styles, not just like monsters or sci-fi. I love the more simple styles too, like the primal stuff. So with that, I think I can cover quite a big range, and I just put my typical way of working, which is like attention to detail, form, blah blah blah, and I get a result that people like. So yeah, but I want to see if I can do that in something so out of my comfort zone, such as animation. That's the true test right there, I think. Like,
so I see Gio as the art version of Lestat. Like, I watch. You remember Interview with a Vampire? Like, you watch these guys, and like these vampires have been alive for so long that they're just like,
so long, yeah.
yeah, they're like, listen, I was an investment banker for 100 years and I made $1 billion. Now I'm a rap star and I'm the best rap star of all time. And like you probably at some point will get bored. And for real, like sometimes, dude, I was doing 2D stuff for so long, and then ZBrush was like my wife is gonna hate this analogy, right? But like 2D was the wife, and sculpting was like, man, but yeah, look at
that meme, that meme, internet meme of like.
Yeah. And then I started sculpting. I was like, oh, this is dope. Yeah, 2D. You start not appreciating illustration for a minute, and then you're like, yeah, but I make a living with illustration. I can't leave illustration. I gotta go back to that. But I love to sculpt though. So like you're probably like, animation is the side chick for you right now, probably.
Oh yeah, that's the sort of grass is greener on the other side.
Nice. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of a thing right now.
Yeah. So. After you've mastered every other discipline.
I don't know if I've mastered it. Like I think.
Oh, come on, bro. Come on. Let's stop all. Let's put
He's like,
aside
I haven't mastered it. It's like I'm gonna go to animation. I'm like, you know what? I play basketball and I'm gonna play football. I'm done with basketball.
Yeah.
Play football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Or Jordan went to baseball. Nah, okay, I'm not comparing myself to Jordan.
I think you can.
No, because you can play baseball and basketball. That's right. I said it.
Oh,
I said it. That's okay. Listen, it's all right. It's okay. He's retired now. I don't care. Yeah, this is crazy. Seeing it come out of the paper is bananas. Did you do the sketch as well?
No, that was Carlos.
Okay.
That sketch. So we got his permission to use that design of his, and then this was for Monster Palooza. We printed this out like pretty big actually, and then Tim Gore, who's one of the best practical painters in the business, painted it for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just bought his Bloodline.
Oh.
His airbrush paints. Do you ever do any now? Has that been anything that you messed around with, like painting any of your statues or anything like that?
See, talking about like where I'm not good at painting, I need to be better at that stuff. I've always been like kind of shy around colors, and like, I feel like my understanding about color theory needs a lot of work. So no, I haven't really.
So Gio, that's the regular answer to that question. Thank you.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I got him like yeah.
Thank you.
I got him there.
Not anime, because like you're still really.
Thank you for bringing God tier back to demigod. I appreciate that.
Super Saiyan's Nakpil.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. That's the normal. Thank you.
The normal.
Nice.
Yeah. I went totally to animation.
Yeah, it's dope, man.
Oh man, this Secure is also cool.
Yeah.
I want to do the bike.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah, you could do the bike. I would love to. I did a Tetsuo one time, and I was like, oh man, I want to do Canada, but I could never. Like, I'm not a good hard surface guy. I would never be able to do the bike.
It's hard. That bike's like tough one.
Is this from Primal as well?
Inspired by Primal.
Okay.
This design was sort of it's my own design. I think I called him Hornbrow or something. He carries around like a big ass raptor claw around his neck.
Like how clear your shapes are and everything is.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah, I was doing that in ZBrush. Like I tried the modeler VR approach in ZBrush where it's different layers. It doesn't quite work in 2D because you just need to move around. But I was doing it for this one, so and I've seen other people do it too. But if you want to do it the best way, do it in VR.
Man, I like that idea of doing separate shapes for the muscles, like doing like the spheres and I guess stylizing them to be the pecs and the deltoids and all that stuff. Right? Those were separate elements, yeah?
Those are all.
Yeah.
I think I might have merged the face in this one, but yeah, the body in itself, those are all separate subtools.
Wow.
I think that's kind of how you like taught with that troll tutorial that I did. Like that was the first time I've experienced someone actually separating each part, and then getting the shape right. You got the shape right, and then we worried about blending everything together.
Oh, that's right. I did that already in ZBrush. I was doing that back then. Okay.
You for me, you've been doing this for a long time.
You've done so much, you've forgotten what you've done.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, Lestat.
Yeah.
Lestat, you've been doing this for.
I've lived for centuries.
Exactly.
He's like he's been doing this long.
A lot of students I've decimated to get to this point now.
Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you definitely make me want to mess around with VR and the Adobe app and play around with some new ways of getting an anatomical shapes. Like, man.
We'll work on that when we do the thing, man. I'll show you.
Nice. Yeah, one thing that I keep telling people is that people think that Bradley and I started the Stylist League just, as a way to give back to the community. For me personally, is very selfish. I wanted to seek out my favorite artists and then collect grab their sense of style and creativity and add it to my own Borg like
like information. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I would like to thank Gio for being on with us today. We've learned a ton about techniques and where he came from, and McDonald's, and if you
Toshiba,
ILM,
how to get to ILM via Toshiba Computer Company. Yeah, exactly.
We went from Canada to the country of Texas.
And shout out to Gio to be in my home state, and I didn't even know. I wish I knew back then. Yeah. Exactly. Everybody knows that's where everything goes down is Maryland. That's a party state. But anyway, Maryland and Delaware. But thank you for being on the show, man. We really appreciate it. I cannot wait to have you on with us next month. If you guys don't know, Gio is our guest for the month of what's next? September? Yeah.
Yes.
September. Yeah. I don't know how the calendar works, you guys. But yeah, so look forward to that. We will be doing some X-Men villain goodness, and please tune in for that. And thank you.
Thank you again, Gio.
Thank you for having me. Had fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks, bro.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.